Wake up your morning in a brand new way with the positive people, places, events, and things in and around your neighborhood and around the world. No matter where you live, your mornings are about to get better. It's the refreshing way to start your day. No doom or gloom, just bright sunshine no matter what the weather. Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. Inspiring, informative, intelligent, Ion. Positively the best way to start your morning. Good morning and welcome to Metro Magazine. You know, there is a lot of talk in the news about politics. You can't go anywhere without hearing someone's opinion, and very often that opinion might not be positive. I'm excited this morning because we have a woman who is going to be joining us. She's not a stranger to Metro Magazine. However, she's a businesswoman and someone who launched an initiative, a Facebook initiative, back in 2012 called Take Back the House. I, in particular, asked her to come and talk to you because I see all of the involvement and also a lot of the information that she's very well up to date on. And I want to share some of that with you this morning because this, you will agree with me, is a very important election. So please join me in welcoming back the friend to Metro Magazine, Evelyn Lugo. Evelyn, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie, for having me come. It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate it. And you know, I have followed you. As a matter of fact, I'm a part of that group since 2012. You launched it actually in 2010.
Yes, it was launched, and it was just, Facebook was new back then.
Right.
And I heard the term somewhere on the news. It was when it was that midterm election when the Republicans took back the House, and during that campaign or that election year, someone said, we need to take back the House. And I said, we certainly do. So I went on Facebook and I started this group called Take Back the House in 2012 because that was the next election. Yes. So unfortunately, we did not do that. But
one of the things I do like to kind of keep this bipartisan, one of the things I do like is that the initiative is it's more information packed.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the fact that you basically present facts, report news as it's being presented, and really, I guess, allow people to make up their own minds.
Yes.
And that I really like about it. So before we even get to the politics, one of the reasons why I wanted you in particular to come on is the fact that anything that's happening in the election world affects especially people who own or operate small businesses, and you are a very savvy businesswoman. So talk about the importance of people like yourself or myself and what this election means.
Well, as in any election, you have the two parties, and their philosophies are different. The last cycle that we had with President Obama, his last 4 years, we saw things like closing down the government. That had a very negative effect on businesses. I live in D.C., so we're somewhat more
kind of insulated from what's happening.
Exactly. We're more insulated than other states and other communities are. But even here it was felt. I own a real estate business, and because we're here in DC, when the government shuts down, the government's not supposed to shut down.
Right.
So, our client base is always supposed to be employed. So the shutdown really damaged our business for a while, and just even though it was a short period of time, just knowing that you're going to have this fight every year left a lot of people. And when you're talking about government employees, you're also talking about the contractors, you're talking about lobbyists, you're talking about, it just grows.
And you're bringing up an interesting point, because very often when you have reporting on the economy, housing usually leads that conversation. And I think a lot of people who don't understand the complexity of what that means, they tend to focus on, we're not selling as many houses. Talk about the trickle down, if you will, effect that it has on all different segments of the market. Talk about that for a moment.
Oh, no question. I mean, if you just think about it, the person who buys a property, one of the first things they usually do is go to Home Depot and open a credit card account. Then they go to the furniture store and they buy furniture. and then they hire contractors to come in and do painting, maybe refinish floors. They hire a landscaper to make everything pretty outside. It is a trickle down effect. So when the real estate market hurts, everybody hurts.
Yeah. So you have been doing real estate, or been involved in real estate for a good number of years. And one of the things I like about you, you don't just sell houses. You really are a savvy businesswoman. Talk about some of the things that you do in the midst of economic crisis, and how you help your clients be able to kind of weather the storm, if you will.
Well, the good thing about real estate, Bonnie, is that during your ups and your downs, and there's always going to be ups and downs in real estate, as long as you can hold on to your property during the downtime, there's always going to be an uptime.
Right.
So the people that are really harmed during those downtimes are people that don't have a choice but to sell their property. And then, of course, with the big crisis that we had, the mortgage crisis that we just experienced, a lot of people suffered through that. Their properties went underwater. Underwater meaning that they were worth a lot less than what their mortgage was. So we had a huge issue, and it was the first time we ever had short sales in our industry.
And and that happened across the country, because I have friends who are in real estate in different areas around the country, and that was kind of what they talked about all the time. I just did a short sale.
And they were not easy. The White House put some initiatives in place. For instance, being able to renegotiate your mortgage with your lender. And once lenders got on board with that, a number of people were able to save their investment property. They may have had a first and a second, and I saw banks forgiving second mortgages.
Oh, wow.
To keep people in. So this administration was very, very proactive. It could have been so much worse. It really could have.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And also that there was a I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. There was a piece in the IRS that said that if you were forgiven any portion of your mortgage, that then became taxable income.
Wow.
And that kept so many people from doing short sales. So this White House changed that, or well, they initiated a change to that, that we're not going to hit you twice. You lost your property. We're not now going to say that $100,000 loss you have to pay taxes on. That lasted till probably 2012, I think it was, before they did away with that. But that helped so many people.
Wow. Now we are in I will say, since I've been voting, this is probably the most interesting election that I have ever experienced. What do you think we're seeing? I know you're sitting back, and we all have our opinions, and we have parties that we are affiliated with. But what do you think it is that's causing people to be? This is unsettled for me.
It is. I think that it really began with, if we're going to put a mark on when did this start happening? It was probably the Tea Party. That would have been President Obama's first term,
right?
Where we started seeing anger and
really all out revolt,
all out, exactly, but really nasty, and that nastiness brought in during that midterm that we were talking about these Tea Party Republicans, and I think that's where it began showing itself that American people, voters, were not happy with their electorates. So they were not happy with their representatives. So they started trying to shake it up. So we saw it, I think that's where it first began. And then, of course, we ended up with Ted Cruz's and others who were running for president. So we saw that, and we ended up with Trump. So I think that when you see someone like Trump, and he's so anti so many things, when you're talking about closing down borders from not allowing Muslims to come in, when you're talking about building walls, I think that shows an anger that from the Republican voters that they're angry.
So, do you think it's because they feel as though no one's listening to them?
I think
So
I think it's
kind of
even more than
a
that.
silent majority, if you will.
I think it's even more than that. I think that they
Okay.
see the party is still wants to be conservative and still wants to go in this direction, and they don't want it to go in that direction. They want it to go in this direction. So, who's the person they pick? The person who's going to take it as far to if you're going to call that right, left as possible. Although, of course, its politics isn't left, but I think that that's what you're seeing, and you're seeing it in the Democratic Party
And I was
as well.
about to say, it's not just on the Republican side. You're also seeing, because this phenomenon with Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are both, in my estimation, phenomena. So talk about the Democratic side, and what is it that you think has really spawned this movement, if you will, with Bernie Sanders? And he's doing it among young people. What do you think that's saying to the American public?
Well, Bernie Sanders is a very unique senator. He's someone that I followed for years and supported for a long time. When he came into the race, very few people knew who he was.
Right.
You know, everybody believed that it was going to be, Hillary was going to sail right through. But he started
giving her
talking. He's
a
giving
run
her a
for
run
her
for the
money.
money,
Yeah,
no question.
he really is.
Yeah, and he won West Virginia yesterday. Granted, it's all really delegate counts at this point, but that was, I think he got 5 more delegates. He's so far behind on the delegate side of things, and that's something that young people don't understand,
Right.
and they don't see it as being fair. So it should be the people's vote that counts, and I think that that's what is fueling. Just like you see the anger on the Republican side, if you're on Facebook, you see the anger on Bernie's supporter side.
Yeah.
They're angry. They see they want an alternative to the Democratic Party as
And
well.
and I talk to a lot of millennials, and I listen to what they're saying in terms of why, because a lot of them are following and supporting Bernie Sanders. And a lot of the things that I hear from them, I think they have in common. People might not want to admit this. They have the same thing in common with people who are Trump supporters. Both of them feel as though no one's listening to what they're saying.
I think it's more than that. I think that both of them feel that they want a place at the table and that they want to be heard, was what you said, but they want to change their parties. I see that, in my opinion, on both sides. They don't like what they're getting.
Because we're basically, whoever is there, and I'm not saying necessarily on has to do with the presidential election. I know I just voted here locally, and I'm going down the list, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
these are my choices.
Yeah.
And you vote not because you believe, although your vote is basically co-signing whatever policies these people are putting forth. You just feel like you don't have another choice. So let's take a quick break, because I want to delve more into the idea of why just the two choices and what you think the American people need to do in order to change that. So sit back. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more Metro Magazine.
Right now. You always do this. I can't believe that you haven't learned by this point.
A child is abused every 10 seconds in the United States, and 30% of those children will later go on and abuse their own. Help stop the cycle and report child.
If you're just joining us, I'm here with businesswoman Evelyn Lugo, and we're having a really good discussion. We're talking politics this morning. Not that you're not tired of it, but I think this conversation is really going to give you pause for thought. And so, Evelyn, when we went to break, we were talking about the idea of choices, if you will, being limited. So let's expound on that a little bit.
Well, I think that that's probably where the anger that we're seeing on both sides is that their lack of choices. And granted, it's hard to say that when you had 16 Republican candidates, but
it's kind of the way our system is set up. It's like the process of elimination, and who's left standing, that's who you're stuck with.
Exactly. But on the Democratic side, you had two. So and they couldn't have been further apart from each other. Although they have so many on their platform, so much is the same. I am a Democrat, so I was very happy to see Bernie come in because I'm a left Democrat, and Hillary's just always been more center, and I wanted him to bring her, to take her to the left, and he's doing
and
that.
And that's a good strategy if you think about it.
He's doing that.
Exactly. Even if you don't think you could win.
Yes. So I think that, for all those people that say Bernie needs to get out, no, Bernie can stay. Bernie can stay. He's doing what we needed him to do if that's your politics. More than that, and we'll talk about the strategy and what people are in the game for. You asked me a question earlier.
We were talking about, and I'm trying to remember, we were talking about why are certain people why do they feel like they don't have any choices available to them? And we're talking about the two-party system.
Yes.
So
about holding your nose.
Right. When you
that's
when
what
you
I
vote.
called
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's right. We were talking about the fact that I just did an election, a voting here locally, and my choices seem to be somewhat limited.
Yes. And
why I needed to vote despite that.
And you're absolutely correct. In the case of both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, they have their platforms. They may shift a little bit in one direction or another. I think that most voters experienced this last 6 years with a Democratic president and Republican House and Senate, and the gridlock and the obstructionism, and most Americans don't watch politics.
Right.
They don't read politics. All they know is this is what this feels like. Doesn't matter who's responsible for it for the majority of Americans.
Because you know what? At the end of the day, I think whether you be a Republican or a Democrat or somewhere in between, I think most people just want to get up every day, go to work, take care of their families, and just leave everybody else the heck alone. They really don't care about all this other craziness.
You are so correct.
Yeah.
And that voter is not an informed voter.
Right.
And but when you're doing campaigns, people tend to pay more attention, especially during a presidential cycle. That's when you get the most voters out. Midterms, unfortunately, Americans don't show up very well, and that's how you end up with governments that you probably didn't want.
But you know what? You bring up an interesting point, because a lot of people do sit out for local and midterm elections.
And that's where everything starts.
But if you think look at this current president that's sitting. Think about the number of fights that have transpired. And you begin to understand that you cannot afford to sit an election out. Talk about that, if you will.
Well, you really can't, because most of the things that affect us locally.
Exactly.
We have the umbrella of the federal government, but they have their checks and balance systems. But really, it's your mayor, it's your senator, it's your governor. These people are the ones that are sent to Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
On a local basis, how much money you're going to get from Medicare depends on your local government.
Exactly.
Are we going to get Obamacare? That depended on your local government. There's so much that affects people's lives, everyday lives. You know, are we going to improve the roads? Are we going to take money out of school systems and put them somewhere else? This is all local stuff.
And you bring up an interesting point talking about roads, transit systems, especially when you live in a large metropolitan area such as DC. And to make it even more pertinent, look at what's happening with the transit system and people complaining, you know, the delays. We have systems, structures of things across this country, and President
Bridges.
Obama has been talking about this for years.
Yeah, look
the
at our
fact that
bridges.
everything is crumbling, and people are just, you know, like, that's not important. They just want to spend money. No, we need to spend the money.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's controlled on a local level. So if you could speak to that a little bit more.
Well, it is, because once again, the states determine who their representatives are going to be in Washington. They vote their council member, the Congress in. So they vote senators in, and they vote the Congress people in. Those people come from their state, and they push their agendas.
And those are the ones who say, I want X number of dollars to build this
Exactly.
bridge or to do, you know, whatever this
Exactly.
initiative is.
Exactly. So you are responsible for your Congress people and your senators.
Exactly.
So if something is not happening that should be happening, you need to go back and see if what they're supporting and what they're not, and pick up the phone. Believe it or not, they do respond.
I've called before.
Yes, they do
Yeah.
respond. And if you know, if you want to initiate something in your state or in your city, pull a group of people together and show up. It's, you know, the reason why it's as bad as it is right now is because people just aren't showing up anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, voting numbers are going down. And so you get these guys that, and these women, these people that win these elections, they come to Washington, D.C., and then they do something contrary to what their voters would have wanted them to do. So not only is it important to vote every single election, it's important then to pay attention and make sure that the person that you elected is actually doing what you elected them to do.
And you know,
if they're not, then vote them out.
Exactly. And you know, you bring up another interesting point, because you talk about the everyday citizen getting out there and exercising their right to vote. Talk about Congress people or senators who go to DC. We've sent them there, and they don't vote on any of the different agendas that's put before them. Talk about how that's just not cool.
No, it's not only is it not cool, but what's even worse about it is that we don't do anything about it.
Right.
In many cases, we just don't. We go ahead and we vote, as is our right, and I feel our obligation as an American citizen is that we vote, but then we don't do anything else.
Yeah, because I know there was a couple of people, and I won't name names, but a couple of people, and if you've been keeping up, you know who I'm talking about, who just basically didn't show up for the vote. I mean, it's like, okay, this is your job, not running for political office. Your job is to go there and represent the people who put you there, and the way you represent is to fight for them.
And to show up and vote.
Exactly.
That's your job, is to vote.
Yeah.
And if you were hired and one of your jobs is to vote, and you're not there on the floor to vote, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah, because a regular job, if you didn't show up for an assignment, you get fired. And that's basically.
But the only one that can fire a congressperson or a senator, unless if they've done something illegal, are the people that elected them.
Put them there. Yeah.
So you can't just elect them and then walk, turn your head and go in the other direction. You have to pay attention, because a representative that's not representing their constituency should not be a representative of that constituency. But it's amazing, because you see some people that they win every time, and they become, they've sat in that seat so long, it's impossible to get them out, but they're not doing the will of the people. So I think that this is all built up. I have to say that I believe that it progressed so quickly because we suddenly had someone we never had before.
And it's interesting. I remember because he threatened to do it a couple of times, he being Trump. And we were like, nah, he's not going to do it. And if he does, people kind of laughed. I was one of them. It's like, what is he doing? Yeah. And look at where he is now.
Well, he waited for the right opportunity. We can go back, and when President Barack, or then Senator Barack Obama, said he was going to run And everybody said, "Oh, against Hillary Clinton, nobody even knows who you are, and you're black." And he
But you know
said
something
he found it was the right time.
Exactly.
And
Timing
that's
is
where
everything.
I'm connecting the dots to.
Yeah.
It was the right time. So having our first African American president in the United States brought out part of America that was not so cool. You know, it brought. I remember people saying, "Oh, you know, racism is over in America. We don't need affirmative action anymore. We have a black president." No. As soon as that man won, I was a big supporter. As soon as he won, I said, "Wait and see what's coming next. We're going to see hatred from people that have been, you know, wearing the hood over their head. You didn't know who they were."
And you know something interesting? I had a retail business at the time, and there were different groups who would come because of the setup of my business, and they would sometimes have their meetings and their little coffee clutches, and there was even a prayer group that used to come every week. It was a group of women, and I had a sign in my window that I was a supporter of President Obama. Then he was running for office. And I'll never forget the ugliest note I have ever received from anyone. Because first of all, America, we are by right, by law, we're given to be able to vote however we want to. It doesn't mean that I don't like you because you're Republican or that I'm against you. It means I'm expressing my right to vote. And I got the ugliest, most threatening note that was left in the bathroom. And it frightened me. That's when I realized, oh my gosh, we're dealing with some ugliness here that is very deep seated.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where it started. That ugly underbelly started when President Obama won that office, and twice, and that it spurred that to a point where now that's how a Trump could be running for president.
And you listen to his message.
The things that he espouses about American people, because we're all American.
That make America great again.
Exactly.
And again, this is not one way or the other. I have my own personal opinion,
it's code.
But it's code for a lot of people who feel as though they have lost their country.
Yes.
And they want to take it back.
Yes. And it's clear in what he's saying, you know, don't let Muslims in. Let's put up a wall. Let's keep Mexicans out. You know, I mean, all of his rhetoric is so anti-women, anti-Latinos, anti-black. It's just, and, you know, I remember this one, I have to say, because Trump, when he speaks, he just says, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the, you know, sometimes I think he's like Muhammad Ali, you know, but there's this one thing that one time he said, there was a poll and he won the undereducated. And he said, I love the undereducated. Yeah. And that stuck with me. Yeah. Because what he should have said is underinformed maybe, but I think he spoke the truth. That is how he feels. And
it also it may, and I could be wrong, it may speak to the opinion that he has of that group of people, whoever that group of people is.
The people that made him a billionaire.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
People that
that's kind of a slap in the face.
It is. Yeah. But isn't it interesting then, though, that he wins? He wins that voting block, the same voting block that he insults. So it's really interesting, that whole phenomenon. But then again, you know, like I said, I think that this is where it started, and take back our country, you know, or let's make it great again.
Yeah, make America great again.
Yeah. So that's where that comes from.
So we've been talking about Trump. We've been talking about Bernie. Let's talk about Hillary, because she, in her own right, is also a phenomenon because she's female.
She's a woman.
Let's talk about her run and some of the positives and the negatives, and why do you think she finds herself where she is? Because she's part of her husband's legacy. Let's talk about that.
That is such a good question. And I don't know, I mean, we can give our ideas about it. I don't think that Hillary expected what happened with Barack Obama. And I know she didn't expect what's happening now with Bernie Sanders. But I think that in both cases, that it's just short-sightedness on our part not to see that there's this underbelly that's growing of people that are not happy with politics the way that they are now. And even though Bernie was a senator for 20 plus years, they don't see him as establishment. They see Hillary as establishment, which makes no sense to me. But anyway.
But do you think it's because, well, first of all, she was Secretary of State, but also her husband?
First lady.
She was First Lady.
Then she was a state senator.
Right.
Then she was Secretary of State. For anyone to say that she is not qualified to be President of the United States, they're saying that because they have another candidate they'd like to vote. Because there's no way you can't say she's not qualified.
Right. No,
she's
definitely
more
knows.
qualified than Barack Obama was at the time, as far as experience is concerned.
Exactly.
But I think that her challenge, when you're looking at where her votes are coming from, is with young people. Bernie's message was free college, free medical. Let's take down the banks. It was all the stuff that young people are attracted to.
But not, do you think that's really honest on his part? Do you really think he wants to do that? Or
I think he wants to do it. I think
but
that
how
he knows?
realistic
Does he know
it?
that he can't do it? Yes, of course he knows he can't. I mean, that's the way
Because
I
the
see
country would come
it.
crumbling down.
Yes, you can't. We're talking trillions of dollars.
Right.
We don't have trillions of dollars.
And
take that a step further.
Yeah.
We have a Republican Congress.
Right.
None of that is going to get
No,
through.
because of the conservative nature of. Yeah. No, it's not going to happen.
It's not. And so
do you
I
think he's
it's
being disingenuous? Yeah. Do you think he's?
No question. I mean, I believe that to be so.
Yeah.
I think that what Hillary has going for her is that she is more centrist. She's been in the Senate. She's gone to other countries. She has an understanding of how to get people to work across the lines. Bernie does not. Bernie was a socialist senator from Vermont. That's who he was. And then he joined the Democratic Party so he could run for president. So even though he voted mostly with Democrats. I followed Bernie for a long time.
Oh, wow.
His vote was almost always with Democrats. But he wasn't that person that brought people together, and I think that that's Hillary. So I think that she has that going for her. And when you're looking at who really is voting for Hillary, it's us. It's our age. It's women. It's our elders. The group that she wasn't able to get is the group that's fueling Bernie and that was young people. And for whatever reason, she's telling you, she's saying we can't do that. I can't give you free college for all,
right.
But there are other things that we can do, and we can do X, Y, and Z, but it's not free college for all yet.
Right.
And sometimes you have to take a baby step and another baby step to get to where you need to be.
And maybe somewhere in the middle is where we need to be, because economics is what it is.
Yep.
And we can't give away free stuff. And from the standpoint of business people like ourselves, that means we get to pay for it and we go to work every day. So where is the fairness in that?
Exactly.
Okay, I want to go back to Bernie Sanders, but before we do that, let's take another quick break and then we're going to come back. So sit tight. We're coming back with more Metro Magazine.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
Evelyn, when we went to break, we were about to talk more about Bernie Sanders and why he is so important. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Well, I think that Bernie's bringing in young people into that may not have come into the political scene. He brought them in early. We saw that phenomenon also with Barack Obama. Young people really got active in politics during that period of time. And so now this is the new group of young people. That was 8 years ago. So now we have new young people coming back in. It may have been challenging for Hillary Clinton to get those young people motivated.
Why do you think that is?
I don't think that she realized that they were there.
So you don't think she paid proper attention to them?
I think that she knew that she had the vote just with us and above. And so early on they probably should have done more outreach to young people. Pick some young people that are very famous or popular in the country and started motivating them like that. She did that with the African American group. She did that very early on when she brought in her director of African American outreach. But I didn't see that, and I may have missed it, but I didn't see anybody
she really
doing
didn't.
that. Right. And I think that that's where she missed it. That nobody ever thought that anybody could pull that kind of a group up. And Bernie saw it. And the moment he said free college, people started paying attention, young people.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them one single bit.
A lot of them are
we're paying our children's college educations.
Hello.
Thank you. So I like that message.
Yeah.
But can we do that?
Right. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. But if he's able to get these young people motivated and get them to participate in an election, then I think that as we're getting towards the nomination, and it's really only just a few weeks away as far as the delegate count is concerned. Once we hit the mother load in California, right now Hillary's short 144 delegates.
So talk about the delegates that are left, the numbers, because you have New Jersey, you have California, you have...
New Jersey, I think, is 144 delegates, and that one is in a couple of weeks. California's the mother load. It's like 457 or something like that. She only needs 144.
Right.
And so the delegate count, I think, is it's done, and you'll see it a lot on Facebook. Do the math. That's everybody's.
So what do you
line.
think?
Do the
why
math.
do you think Bernie Sanders is continuing to fight?
Oh, I think that it's obvious, and I said this early on when he first started to run, and I said, and we started seeing all these people, all these young people, especially, start getting involved in his campaign. I said, good. I said, this is great because this platform needs to come into the Democratic Party. We need to embrace these young people and because what affects them affects us. These are our children.
Right.
So, if our child can't get a job, if our child has
They're coming back home.
Yes. If they can't get, scholarships or financial aid or low income loans or, low interest rate loans, that affects us because they're going to come back home. So it is important. And I think that what Bernie's going to bring, I saw an interview with him on Rachel Maddow on Sunday, I believe it was. It was an excellent interview. It was done in his backyard, which of course is this huge forest. It's like it looks so different than being in the city anyway. But they sat for about an hour, and it was an excellent conversation. But she asked that question about the delegates, and he responded because everybody now is talking about a fight on the floor of the Democratic convention. So she asked him specifically, and he answered. He said, obviously, if she has the delegate count, that's it. She has the delegates. However, if we're bringing our voters into her campaign, then we want something in return. We want representation. We want representation in the group that she's going to put together.
Representation in the form of people that she chooses to help her to run. Okay,
yes, exactly.
Okay,
and that's what he said when he said that in this interview. That's what he'll be going to the convention for. So, we have voters, we have delegates. If you want our support, this is what we want from you. I don't know what his list is going to be, but I thought that long time ago when I started seeing everybody coming in that he can bring that group of people and they can make some demands. Granted, we're seeing different conversations going on where, wait a minute, she won. So why does she have to? No, I think that Hillary is going to be more inclusive than most people would have thought she would be.
And it's also smart because this is just, the nomination.
Yes.
Now you have to win the election.
Yes.
And you're not going to win that by yourself.
Well, she's not by herself.
Meaning that
first of all,
okay.
And then secondly, young voters are historically don't vote. So what concerns me as a Democrat mostly right now is that faction that you see that say, I'll never vote for her. They're adamant supporters of Bernie Sanders. And they're like, I'll never vote for her. Well, understand that I get it. for whatever reason, because it's been very hostile election, and that's where we started. Whoever thought that it was going to be like this? But for those people who say that, I think that they've got their blinders on, or that they weren't really Democrats in the first place.
Okay.
Because when we go into the general election, it's either Trump or it's our candidate, and it's clearly the numbers are showing that candidate is going to be Hillary. So if you espouse to the platform that Bernie Sanders represents, then how could you possibly say, I won't vote and let Trump win? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Understand that the next president of the United States is going to, first of all, fill the first seat in the Supreme Court, and then maybe 2 or 3 more after that.
Right. Because we have an aging Supreme Court. Yeah.
And those aren't elected positions.
Right.
Those are life terms. Look at what happened to the Supreme Court. We've gone so far to the right that women can't get safe abortions anymore. I mean, we've gone so far to the right that voting protection has been pretty much eliminated.
They're being challenged.
Yes,
Yeah.
affirmative action pretty much eliminated. I mean, we've gone that's the Supreme Court. They're the ones that vote on that. So you cannot be a Democrat and say, if she wins, I'm not going to vote.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
So,
because you're basically co-signing with whatever.
Yeah, you're voting for Trump.
Right.
If you don't vote as a Democrat for the Democratic nominee, you're voting for Trump.
So let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about the Republicans, because they have the same situation where they're, the person they were supporting lost. And I just saw something, I think I read it in the news this morning,
That's huge.
that Cruz is thinking about, reigniting his...
Yeah.
Is he trying to do what Bernie's doing? What is that about?
It's interesting. I was watching this morning because tomorrow's going to be the big conversation.
The meeting on the Hill.
With Paul Ryan and Donald Trump. And, Paul Ryan couldn't be any more different than Donald Trump. And really the Republican Party as it sits couldn't be any more different. So, but they're going to have to come to some agreement in how they're going to live together, because he is their candidate. There are lots of Republicans, however, who say that they won't vote for Trump. Who say they'll vote for Hillary Clinton.
But he's so... Trump... he's a hard person to pin down, because one day he'll say something and you're like, okay, this is what he thinks. And then tomorrow it's like, I didn't really mean that, or I didn't say that.
He has no policy plans. Really, that's basically it. And he didn't think he was going to get this far
So
either.
how do you pin someone down like that and make a deal with them, which is what they're trying to do?
I think that the Republican Party at this point would prefer to have Hillary Clinton in office than Donald Trump.
Wow.
And the reason for that is because he's going to tear their party apart.
At least they can line up against a person as opposed to...
At least now the Republican Party can
they
be
have
intact.
A common enemy, if you will.
Yes, exactly. They can be intact and they can fight the Democratic president. With Donald Trump in office, he's just going to tear them to shreds.
Wow.
And they won't win an election for who knows how long after him.
This is a loaded question, but we know that Mr. Trump he leaned, on the Democratic side before.
He was a Democrat for years.
So... You just said something that's interesting. Is this possibly his plan, is to disintegrate?
Well, that was, people have said that from the very beginning, that he was
really
odd. Running so that Hillary could win. So, people have said that for the longest period of time. I think that that Donald didn't think that he could win, and it was just going to be fun. He self-funded his campaign.
Right.
Now he has to raise billions if he's going to go into this general election. I don't think that initially he really wanted to be president.
Wow.
But now that he's, this far away from being the most powerful person in the world, if you know anything about his personality and his ego, then now he's kind of attractive. So that's why there's no platform. That's why there's no policy. That's why they've done no fundraising. He's going into a general election very ill prepared.
Wow.
Because He didn't really want this in the first
So, in your opinion, the American people, should we be concerned?
place. No, we should be very concerned. If the Republican Party is concerned about their own candidate, if, we've got ex-presidents, both Bushes, there's a long list of Republicans that say they will not support Donald Trump.
Because if you look at it, we live in a global world. We are no longer
Absolutely.
isolated over here, and our politics are what they are. Every decision that is made in that office affects us, not just here at home, but globally.
Globally, no question.
So,
Will we remain the world leader with the Donald Trump?
interesting.
Will we remain safe?
Interesting.
If you're attacking Muslims, telling them you're not allowed to come into our country, does that make us safer?
Wow. Because you have a bunch of people who are Muslim who are here, and some of them, unfortunately, are on the fence about how they feel about America. And one of the things that I think has kept us safe is the fact that we have been inclusive and we have been sensitive
Yes.
to the fact that we really are a melting pot here in America.
It's different than it is in Europe, and that's where you see most of the attacks.
Yeah.
And I visited, I know you visited too, the anti-Muslim
The sentiment is
sentiment
very
is high there.
And a lot of people don't realize, not to single France out, but I've been going back and forth there for years, and I can remember a lot of the sentiment that wasn't as widely publicized, and maybe it's because of social media that we know so much now, but they were very, very against a lot of outside influence, if you will. They wanted their way of life protected, and that meant keeping other people out.
Does that sound familiar?
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, we should be very, very afraid.
Yeah.
And every American should vote in this election.
Yeah.
It is a global vote. We are America, United States of America. Everybody's eyes are on us. If that candidate is not the candidate that you would have preferred, vote the platform. Just vote. If you have to hold your nose when you go into the voting poll,
But you got to do it.
you gotta do it because the future of our country depends on it.
And if we talk about using Mr. Trump's slogan of "Make America Great Again," which is interesting to me, that slogan. But if you think about the greatness of America, which has not changed because we remain a great country made up of all different kinds of people from different cultures. The thing that has made us great is the fact that we have exercised on a very large scale our right to vote, our right to express our opinions, and the idea that we could coexist. Granted, there have been a lot of little groups out there who have tried to diminish that. We are great because we are a collective group of people with different ideas, and we figure out how to get along.
Well,
in a big old country.
We're America. We came from every country in the world
Exactly.
to this country.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
so for any president of the United States to take a stance that someone's not welcome is contrary to who we are, and we need to pay attention.
We really do. We really do. And I am, gosh, you have no idea. I'm so honored that you're here talking about this morning because, I try, my whole theme with my show is to talk about positive things and get people up in the morning, make them think, but have them happy when they go out the door. And I think that, so it's been troubling me for a little bit that I needed to really have someone on to talk about, this big old elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It's not something we can escape. We need to talk about.
It's funny that it's an elephant too, isn't it?
I didn't even think about that. That's interesting. You're absolutely right. So let me ask you, let's take another quick break. And when we come back, I want you to give us maybe 3 things that the common everyday person can do to go out and make an impact on this election. So we're going to come right back with more Metro Magazine.
Oh, sweetheart. Gonna give you a hand?
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Evelyn, we're coming up to the final part of this interview, and I wanted to, if you could, for the average person who feels as though their vote or their voice can't really make an impact on this election that's coming up. If you, from the position that you're sitting in, if you had 3 pieces of advice that you could give them to be able to make an impact on a very large scale, what would that advice be to them?
I don't think that any of us can do a large scale because we're just regular folks. We can definitely vote. That's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2.
Talk about the importance of that vote.
Oh gosh, women fought for our vote, our right to vote. African Americans, look what that experience was.
And if I could just stop there just for a second, because you're talking women, you're talking African Americans, you're talking it's like building. You have this vision of this beautiful home. I'll just use a house as an example, and you know the importance of laying that foundation and getting it right, because then you have to go down to zoning, and zoning is not going to give you that permit to continue building that house until you get that foundation laid. So if we were to equate that to voting, the foundation, the sacrifices that were made are already there.
And we're still making sacrifices.
Exactly.
I mean, look at immigration and the Latino vote. I mean, we so need immigration reform in this country.
We do.
But then guess what happens?
I know.
You get a whole new block of voters.
Right.
And Latinos predominantly vote Democrat. In my opinion, there's some correlation between the two. So the fight will never end. It's always going to be there.
But we can't stop building.
No. And we can't stop. We have to help our neighbors. We are a country that helps our neighbors. I remember having this conversation with my daughter last week that, I remember a time when your kids were out in the street and the lady next door could pop them in the head and send them home. Now people don't even know who their neighbor is.
Right.
So, that's why I believe we're finding ourselves in the position we're in now, because you individually are suffering. You're not paying attention to what's going on with other people. If you're paying attention to what's going on with other people, then you're going to find out that they're suffering the same sufferer you are. They are. And this large group of people are suffering because of the same thing. And once you find that out, then you can go to your mayor or your governor or your senator or your congressperson, and you can say, look, this is hurting us. You need to help us fix this. But I think if you're talking about what can the average person do outside of voting,
so voting would be number 1.
Voting is always number 1. You have to vote.
What would be the second thing?
The second thing would be paying attention to what is going on around you, and what is, what issues are affecting your neighbors, what issues are affecting the other children in school. I mean, if you have children in school, go and participate. It starts at just such small levels.
It really does.
It really does. A parent, a school that has a lot of parent involvement is a better school. And if you have that going on, then you can go to the Board of Education and say, we need more funding for this. And then you can go to the Congress and you can say, we need this grant. Or so it starts at just getting involved with your neighbors again.
It does.
That's where it starts. Then you can take it from there to, some people are really involved in their communities. And not everybody has to be that person.
Right.
But if you can just be the person who cares about what's going on with your neighbor, if you see an injustice going on, aren't we supposed to be taking care of our neighbors?
Right.
So if you see an injustice and you feel strongly about it, do something about it. Don't just talk about it.
And even if it's just, supporting that person who does have the wherewithal to go out and be that spokesperson, support that person.
Yeah, so that when that spokesperson says, okay, we've got a meeting with the congressman, we need to bring everybody with us, that you're going to show up.
So what would be your final thing?
My final thing would be get involved. I mean, get involved with the election itself. We were talking about neighborhoods, but get involved with the campaigns. Go out. I mean, the most important thing is the vote. So go out and voter registration. I mean, it's a real easy process. You go, you pick up the boards at one of the offices. You stand in front of a Costco. You find out who's registered and who's not. Those that are not registered, you register them. You do it for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon. Surely all of us have 2 hours. If you got your kids with you, people love kids. They'll come to you and sign anything if you have your kids with you.
Exactly.
You know, especially if they're cute kids.
Especially if it's your grandson. I certainly would. Oh my
I think
gosh.
I'm going to have to take him with me and do some voter registration. But you know, voter registration, phone calls, when I'm talking about getting involved with campaigns, that's all. It's not a big deal. You can make calls from your house now. They make it so simple. You just register. They'll send you lists and you make the calls. So it's not difficult. It's, you know, you don't have to do a lot, but do something.
Do something. And on that, that's a great note to end on. And if you could, I know you guys love this woman as much as I do, because she is so packed with very, very good common sense information about how you can be a better citizen. So Evelyn, how can people get in touch with you, both on a professional side, professional meaning your business, and also get involved with the election and things that you're doing through your Facebook initiative?
Well, I have a Facebook page. We discussed that. And it's called Take Back the House in 2012 with an exclamation mark. You can find us on Facebook. You said earlier on that the page is based on information.
Right.
And we pour information into that page. Granted, there's some conversations that take place, and in politics things can get heated, but it is an information-based group.
Exactly.
So even if it means that, you know, we all have Facebook pages, I believe. We all have Facebook pages. So if you see an article that's informative, put it on your page.
Yeah.
You know,
and
you
then
may
tag take back.
Yeah, you may reach somebody that didn't know that
Because
might be interested with
information
it.
is power.
Absolutely. And we have the worldwide internet now.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why people shouldn't be informed. So maybe that's the thing that you do.
You can do.
Yeah.
And the other thing in terms of your business with Compass, because you and your sister, you guys are dynamite team.
Thank you.
So tell people how
Okay.
they can get in touch with you via
All right.
email or what have you.
Okay. We are the Lugo
And
Parker
you can
team.
look at the...
We are the Lugo Parker team. We sell real estate in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. We've been in business over 25 years now, and we are affiliated with Compass Real Estate. You can reach me at Evelyn, Evelyn, at iselldchomes.com.
And if you can't find her there because you lost the email address for whatever the reason, you know how to reach me. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week on Metro Magazine. I know you could have been any place on the planet, but the fact that you decided to come and hang out with me, I am so, so grateful. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week. And I will see you same time, same place, talking about another interesting subject next week. I am wishing you Godspeed. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you on the flip side.
Cool.
You did a great job, my friend.
Thank you.